Hello and welcome to Globetrotting with Gillespie, Anna Gillespie. If you were watching last week, you'd have heard me say that this little section of film is Globetrotting because I used to do a lot of Globetrotting, as we all did. We travelled everywhere. So we have to kind of do Globetrotting a bit differently. Now I'm in what I call my home base, my mothership, where I come home to when I've been travelling or doing gigs. And so we're going to Globetrot instead with the people that are here until we're let loose on the rest of the world. Now, I must tell you that I come from a family, my mother was from a family called Buxton, and they used to breed like rabbits, going back quite a few years, mostly from Norfolk. And I had a lot of aunts and uncles with offspring, and I'm sitting on the sofa with one of the offsprings, my first cousin, I think my mother's favourite cousin. In fact, this man was actually with my mother when she died, breathed her last on this planet. So for today, we're going to travel food-wise, globe-trotting. So I would like us to go globe-trotting through our stomachs in a way. Not a bad thing anyway, because one of the many Buxton first cousins that I have, albeit actually with a different surname, is sitting next to me on the old sofa, and this is Rudy von Volmer, as he's known. Say hello to the...
Hello, hello people.
And
how very nice to see you on this wonderful day.
How very nice that they can see you,
yes,
actually.
Exactly, the other way round.
So the thing is, Rue is an expert on food. I want to ask you why, what sort of food, because your speciality...
Basically, my speciality is all things Spanish.
Right.
So, basically, I've been whizzing around for 30 years seeing chefs trying to persuade them to use Spanish goods. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Spanish restaurant. We started 30 years ago, so everybody was excited by a broad bean, or not a broad bean, but a dried bean in those days, or a chorizo that was actually made somewhere in Spain and of some quality.
I thought it was pronounced chorizo.
Oh, it might
chorizo
be.
For
Listen,
you Spanish speakers.
I'm sad to say I've never learnt Spanish, which is a great disgrace. But I've always
Gracias.
Yes, I can do that, and a cerveza and vino tinto.
Beer, yes.
But basically, I've always had this chap with me, her man, and he always does all the translating, so he can get rid of all the ghastliness, and I can just enjoy the food.
And the food being it's ham and cheese, is
it? It's ham, cheese, almonds, olives, honeys, all sorts of things, and wonderful things. You get to meet suppliers. That's the lovely thing, because that gives everything a sense of place.
And then you come back to England. I know there's not a chef in London that you haven't had to deal with. All those famous ones.
There's quite
the box as well.
There's quite a few, in inverted commas, famous ones. Yeah. And then there's quite a few infamous ones. It depends on which way you want to go.
Yeah.
But at this present moment, they're all suffering terribly and going mad, as are we all.
And you get up and you give talks about your...
Well, I used to do these series of whiskey dinners, which was pairing whiskey with food, and I was chosen to do the one with Spanish food. So you had all sorts of things compared. Every course was whiskies.
Spanish whiskies?
No, the real McCoy. Yeah. And this was with a chap who's long since died, but who was one of the most knowledgeable and terrifying people in the food industry.
Right.
And I've dealt with basically all those people that are possibly up there in terms of popularity of not of my generation, because nobody's of my generation anymore now.
I am.
Well, yes.
I'm over.
Yeah, but it's very difficult. I mean, the great thing is to get some enthusiasm and rather like, I suppose, it's not mentoring, but you meet chefs and then you learn what their great passion is, or some kind of food, and you introduce it to them. And my great passion is particular place called Extremadura in the south of Spain, where
Whereabouts is
well,
that?
it's on the border of Portugal, in the southern part of Spain,
Great, we're globetrotting.
and
Yes.
it's about the size of the Netherlands or the Belgians, and
Okay.
it's completely covered in oak trees.
Ooh.
And it's one of the, it's one of those strange things. They talk about a terroir for wine, but here you have a terroir for this little piggy. And this piggy is
he eats acorns.
Yeah.
Well,
And it produces one of the finest hams in the world.
all right, stop there a second. I must say, I don't eat meat, actually.
Yes, I know. That's
And I lived with Leslie, that's another story for another time, folks, above in a goat shed for a while in southern Spain, vaguely near Ronda, and underneath us was a pig, and it was fed permanently on acorns, but when they took it off to be slaughtered, you heard it down in the valley with me in floods of tears. If you hear a pig being slaughtered, you never want to eat one of your things that you say is so delicious.
Well,
but acorns is what they love, isn't it?
They do love the acorn, and it imbues the meat with certain characteristics, one of which it breaks down the bad cholesterol in your system. And when we used to sell it years ago at a particular store in Knightsbridge, people used to eat it, and ladies who lunch used to put the fat to the side, which was always a criminal offence in our book. But
You're talking about that big shop down the road.
There's a big shop down the road.
The capital
yes.
H.
Well, there's two with H, aren't there?
Oh yes, that's
but,
true. Yeah.
Anyway, one of those two, we won't advertise
Yeah.
anybody, but that there's an animal. I'm sad to say for you because you don't eat meat, but there's an animal that has a sort of premier crew lifestyle. They get let loose between November and March. They have to double in weight when they're 2 years old.
Yeah.
And they eat about 8 kilos of acorns a day. And they hang around. Okay, they're in groups, but on average, they get about 6 acres each.
Maybe that's where that expression comes from. Happy as a pig in shit.
Yes, indeed. Happy as the proverbial pig in shit. And yeah, so, and then it's cured for years, 2.5 years. It's amazing.
Well, I'm sure that's all marvellous, Rue, but of course, you know who I mean by Felix Dennis, who's sadly
Yes,
no longer
yes,
on
yes.
this planet, who had the Oz magazine and Maxim and Viz and various other things. He used to keep rare pigs like Gloucester Old Spots and Tamworths, or I can't remember the names. And I'm always a bit worried though when they get slaughtered because of this awfulness that happens. Obviously not those rare ones.
Well, no, I mean, I've been present when they've been strapped to a table and stuff.
Oh God!
And yes, it's.
They must know what's about to happen.
Well, I'm sure they probably do, but.
And they made a noise?
They did make a noise, but then the whole village gets in, and by the end of the day, the whole thing's been broken down into its constituent parts and made into sausages or whatever.
Probably the village is sloshed by then. Folks, this is extraordinary because there's the man who deals in meat, and there's me. I would jokingly say I only eat meat if it's human, so I'm spared. Anything else you want to add to do with food and drink and
well,
Spain?
other than when are we all going to be able to go out? The great fun we have in life is to go around a table, sit down, have a natter. At my age, I can't do more than 6 people because I can never hear the other 2 at the end of the table.
I think it's called social intercourse.
I think it is.
That's all we've got now.
That makes it sound a lot more interesting than it actually is.
Well, any other words? Otherwise, we'll sign off. And I'm going to, as usual, sing a song.
You get on and sing your song. But I just say everybody have some sympathy for chefs and go out to eat at the end of the day and enjoy it.
I agree. Well, there's nobody... I mean, I love a good restaurant, and my father always said the terrible thing for chefs is they're often manic depressives because they've worked really hard, and then their artwork is put on a table and eaten, hopefully, and they never see the end result. So,
well, other than happy people, I suppose,
yes.
assuming. And then we also have to find you a place to have a chocolate souffle.
Chocolate souffle, very rare to find. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and all those in between. I know one's meant to list a whole other thing, but I can't do it. I'm too old for that. Just all out there watching. This is from Rudy von Volmer, my first cousin.
Hello.
And goodbye.
Goodbye.
And then I press a button. I'm just going to put a backing track on, and I'm going to sing you out to, it's a prayer actually that they do in India. I will, as the weeks go by, get much funkier, but somehow this morning my inspiration was to sing a prayer. And because we're really in tough times, a lot of the parts of the world, and so we have to think about doing everything with love. I mean, love is the whole point. Even if one's eating a pig, bastard, one should at least do it with love. Everything should be done with love. There's a little section in the middle of the prayer which lapses into Sanskrit. Don't worry about that. You don't have to understand it. Just know that it means love, love, love. And it's just a little thing called Start the Day with Love. Let's see how this works. So from Rue and I...
Bye now.
Goodbye. All right. I think we need more volume. Turn it up a little bit. That'll do. Start the day with love, spend the day with love, fill the day with love, end the day with love. This is the way to God, this is the way to God. Start the day with love, spend the day with love, fill the day with love, end the day with love. This is the way to God, this is the way to God. Prema Swarupa, oh Bhagavan, Pati Purisha, Jai Sai Ram. Prema Swarupa, oh Bhagavan, Pati Purisha, Jai Sai Ram. Start the day, spend the day, fill the day with love, end the day with love. This is the way to God, this is the way to God. This is the way to God. This is the way to God. Well, now it might be the way to God, or it might be the way to the next bar, depending what your poison is. Bye till next time.
Bye now.